Good afternoon. My name's Brett Casey. Absolute pleasure to have this opportunity to speak to you today about behaviourism, the learning theory, and how it can apply in the classroom. If you have any questions at all during the presentation, please don't hesitate to ask me. Or if you wanted to speak to me after I was finished, I'll just be over there. Please come and have a chat. I'm going to take probably about 7 minutes of your time to speak about behaviourism. And in doing so, I wanted to touch on two theories of behaviourism that I personally prescribe to. Operant conditioning and also social learning theory. Now, I was also going to touch on some of the criticisms, the strengths and weaknesses of behaviourism as an overall theory when it's relevant to be used in the classroom. Also, as well, I just wanted to give you some personal perspectives, and hopefully after that you get to know me a bit more as an educator, um, just giving you those perspectives and why I think behaviourism is an important part of teaching today. And then after that, I was just going to quickly recap everything. And then after that, if you wanted to have a talk to me, like I said, I'll just be over there. Now, to start off with operant conditioning, I just wanted to read out a quote that I think covers it pretty well, actually. Operant conditioning assumes behaviour that is followed by a reinforcer strengthens the probability of that behaviour reoccurring. Additionally, operant conditioning employs the model of positive and negative reinforcement and punishment and extinction. So for operant conditioning to work, there needs to be a positive or negative stimulus in the form of a reinforcer. So an example of that I like to say is that a student spells a word correctly, you give them a sticker that they can put up on the sticker board. That's a perfect example of a positive reinforcement. In regards to a negative reinforcement, there may be a student who's disrupting the class, being non-productive. You may need to shout at them to stop those behaviours so everyone, so they can focus. Now, an aspect of operant conditioning that I'm not going to really go into too much detail is punishment. I'm sure we're all pretty familiar with how punishment works as a concept. Now, extinction. Extinction is an important part of operant conditioning, and what they've found is if the reinforcer is removed, that behaviour is going to reduce until it basically goes extinct. It's not there at all. So you need to have that reinforcement there to reinforce the desired behaviour. And if the reinforcer is removed, the behaviour will diminish and reduce until it's extinct. Now, the timing of reinforcement is paramount with operant conditioning. Now, the teacher must issue the reinforcement at the right time, and in saying the right time, it must be immediately after the desired behaviour has been displayed. Now, it must be meaningful to the student or it won't be effective. So you must, so for instance, a sticker system, sticker board that can be seen in front of the classroom there, that's meaningful because the student can gauge that, and also they can see how they're going up against the rest of their peers. Now, it must be consistent, so it must be consistently issued the reinforcer every time after the behaviour has been displayed. Now, there's intervals that reinforcement can be issued. Continuous, which is what I was just speaking about there, every single time after the behaviour has been displayed, or at intervals. So, for instance, every 5 minutes, when you see that behaviour has been displayed, then the reinforcer is issued. Now, I was going to touch on social learning theory, which was developed by Albert Bandura. Now, what he observed was a learner would observe the behaviour of a model. The model could be a teacher or a peer displaying a certain behaviour. Now, from them displaying that behaviour, they observe that the model, the peer or friend receives reinforcement for that behaviour. So positive, or let's go with positive. So it's a positive reinforcement for a model displaying a behaviour. Now, what the learner sees is through the model receiving that reinforcement is they'll integrate that into their own behaviour with the expectation that they're going to receive that reinforcement as well. So basically, that's what social learning theory is a peer or a colleague, a learner copying those behaviours with the expectation at the end of getting that reinforcement themselves, so they integrate that into their own behaviours. Now, I'm going to touch on some of the strengths and weaknesses of behaviourism as a learning theory, because I think when introducing learning theories and discussing them and bringing them to the classroom, it's always good to look through a critical lens, obviously. Now, I was going to touch on some of the strengths first. One of the main ones is it's culturally accepted. Everyone uses behaviourism, even if they don't know it by name. Example of that is a mum teaching behaviours in her child. She'll use behaviourist theories to encourage behaviours out of their child. And that can be used all the way up to a professor at a university. Now, irregardless of the learning level of the student, behaviourism is effective as a means to bring out a behaviour in a student or a learner. For ease of use, it doesn't take too much time to set up. Some of the other learning theories can take a bit of time to set up. Behaviourism is pretty much instantaneous. Self-efficacy. So the role of the model in behaviourism, i.e. the teacher, sorry. So students look to teachers as a role model. So in saying that, the teacher must display a certain amount of self-efficacy at all times throughout the entire lesson, because they're constantly watching you and observing your behaviours. Now, some of the weaknesses that I wanted to touch on. Behaviourism isn't necessarily suitable for higher order thinking skills. I wouldn't use behaviourist concepts in a lesson that was trying to encourage problem solving or creativity even. Is punishment acceptable or ethical in today's society? We have so many resources as educators, and we have so many resources at our disposal. Do we really need to punish students anymore? There is a belief that, we're trying to bring out those behaviours of a learner or a student. That's not through their choice. So the lack of free will is a concern. There's concerns on the reliance of external reinforcement, because that's how the whole concept works, is basically an external reinforcer. As you get older, we develop ways to basically give ourselves a proverbial pat on the back for a job well done. Behaviourism doesn't follow that path. Now, I was just going to touch on some perspectives, and you'll get to know me more as an educator, why I think behaviourism is important. It encourages observation and self-efficacy of the teacher. So you have to be on your feet, and you have to be observing behaviours of your students at all times, which is our responsibility. We should be doing that. Now, it's meaningful to the student as well, and it allows them to track their attainment of a certain behaviour. For instance, the sticker board, they can see how well they're going. That's positive reinforcement of behaviours, so they can kind of build up to something as well. As an educator, I believe in tradition. Sometimes it's good to be progressive, but also as well, it's good to fall back on lessons of the past, and that's what behaviourism is. It's versatile with other theories. For example, social learning theory does involve cognition. The student must be motivated to want to attain that positive reinforcer. That's a cognitive process. Also, they remember the behaviour of the model, which is of course cognition as well. It can be collaborative with other students as well. So when they're working in group work, they can receive positive reinforcement from their classmates. It was a pleasure being able to speak to you here today, and I hope you really did learn something about behaviourism, operant conditioning and social learning theory, how they could be used in your classroom, and also when they're relevant. If you had any questions, please come and speak to me. I'll be just over there. Thank you very much.